Prime Minister Modi noted that climate change is a big threat to the existence of some developing nations. He added that he feels it is his duty to help those nations raise their voice. Prime Minister Modi and UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson launched the Infrastructure for Resilient Island States initiative in Glasgow. The launch was a part of the India-UK coalition for disaster resilient infrastructure. He also announced that the Indian Space Research Organisation will build a special data window for small island developing states. This will aim to timely collect information on cyclones, coral reef monitoring and coastline monitoring through satellites.
क्लाइमेट चेंज से सबसे अधिक खतरा स्मॉल आइलैंड डेवलपिंग स्टेट्स सीट को है। ये उनके लिए जीवन मृत्यु की बात है, ये उनके अस्तित्व के लिए चुनौती है। क्लाइमेट चेंज की वजह से आई आपदाएं उनके लिए सचमुच प्रलय का रूप ले सकती हैं। ऐसे देशों के क्लाइमेट चेंज न सिर्फ उनके जीवन की सुरक्षा के लिए बल्कि उनकी अर्थव्यवस्था के लिए भी बड़ी चुनौती है।
He also participated in the Build Back Better for the World event. He laid stress on 4 aspects in infrastructure creation, including sustainable, transparent finance that respects the sovereignty and territorial integrity of all countries. Members of the Indian diaspora in Scotland interacted with the Indian Prime Minister before his departure. For more analysis about the Indian Prime Minister's visit to Glasgow and Rome, as well as the big announcement, joining us now is our principal diplomatic correspondent, Siddhant Sibal from New Delhi. Siddhant, you were, of course, earlier in Rome covering Prime Minister's big announcements at the G20. Tell us a little bit about some of the salient points that stood out at the global stage. One of them, of course, being what he announced in Glasgow, the net zero emissions aim by 2070.
Well, yes, Priyanka, 5 days of heavy voltage diplomacy when it comes to the Indian Prime Minister's visit, whether it's in Rome or Glasgow. Both the city saw a number of engagements of the Indian Prime Minister. Top, of course, were the number of bilaterals. He almost have more than 15 bilaterals. We saw the visuals just from yesterday from Glasgow of meeting with the Israeli Prime Minister, their first in-person meeting with the Nepali leadership as well. There are reports now emerging that the Indian Prime Minister can go to Nepal in the first week of December. But largely in terms of the announcements on climate change, these announcements made by the Indian Prime Minister, specifically giving a timeline on India's net zero emission, is a big ticket announcement, which of course will have long-term implication. We can expect, like the Paris Climate Accord is being remembered for a long time, Glasgow will be remembered for the commitments India announced at the climate summit, which of course still continues. It will continue till 12th of November. But largely when it comes to the G20 summit, it saw the Indian Prime Minister talking about vaccination and, of course, when it comes to climate. When it comes to vaccination, he announced that India can produce billions of vaccines for the international community. And this is something that, of course, world knows India's capacity. India, of course, amidst the COVID crisis, under its Vaccine Maitri initiative, gave vaccines to 95 countries. The initiative, of course, came to a halt when India was hit by the deadly second wave of COVID crisis. But again, this process has been started. So by and large, a lot of diplomacy taking place, a lot of bilateral engagements taking place. And of course, this is something that is going to help India in long term, in terms not only when it comes to commitments it has made on vaccination and environment, but in terms of bilateral engagement with various world leaders.
Right, Siddhant, tell us a little bit about what is expected to be the blueprint or roadmap for India to achieve these climate goals. We know there's been a lot of appreciation for the big remarks made by the Indian Prime Minister at the global stage.
Well, now we can expect more practical implementation of initiatives such as One Sun, One World, One Grid, and of course resilient infrastructure for small states. Remember, at that event on resilient infrastructure for small states, number of Caribbean islands were present on the occasion, along with Indian Prime Minister and of course the Australian and the British Prime Minister as well at the dais. And remember, India has been in the past engaging with Caribbeans and the Pacifics and small island states, providing them much needed grant. These are the countries, especially when it comes to Caribbean, which have been impacted by devastating cyclones, and we can expect the intensity to increase as climate change shows its impact. So as we saw after the Paris Climate Accord, it was during the Paris Climate Accord in 2015 that the Indian Prime Minister gave the proposal of the International Solar Alliance, which now has 100 plus members. It has been almost more than 5 years, and every year we have seen incremental announcements being made on International Solar Alliance. Just last month, we know Israel became the latest country to become member of the International Solar Alliance. So now, when it comes to One Sun, One World and One Grid initiative, do you expect practical implementation as to how this process will work, as to how these grids, these green grids will be attached? Because this is a long-term process. Now the policy has been announced from Glasgow. There will be, in terms of engagement with other countries, how do they plan to connect, is something that is expected to be announced.
Right, Siddhant Sibal, thank you so much for all those inputs, and thank you for joining us on WION at this hour.
WION World is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news updates on the move.